Welcome back, everyone, to this week's Ship GTM podcast. We've got Bridger and Aman here, as always. And today we're excited to talk about a Substack article that Aman released recently about taking Gmails, so basically like free emails, and then going all the way to a company email as far as enrichment goes. So we're stoked to talk about that. And Aman's going to walk us through it.
Yeah, exactly. So let me go and share my screen here. But yeah, that's the kind of premise of this was something that we've seen a lot, which was you can't always get a work email. Obviously, that's the best case scenario. But whether you are running paid ads or let's say you go to you run a conference or something, right? You just have all this information and leads. You're not going to always have that perfect work email to go reach out to them and enrich whatever outbound motion you're doing. So what we put together here, this is the article. You can look at it at our ShiftGTM Substack, but essentially it's this workflow right here. I'll go over it super quickly, but essentially, really, it is just one tool that is kind of the crux of it. And how we're running this is in Vercel. So Vercel is going to give us the compute layer to run all of these contacts against, right? So let's say we have thousands of emails. It's just going to let us run all of that and process it really efficiently. And this step right here, the AI people search is going to be able to pull back work history. I don't know what they did. I am pretty sure they basically just scraped LinkedIn for us and they're just exposing that through an API, but I'm happy
Amazing.
for it. It's pay as you go. It's super affordable. You can get a lot of really, really amazing data. And of course, once you get the company ID, so say a company domain or a website or a name or something, you can throw that through anything. You can put that into AXA company research. You can get that into Harmonic that's over here, for example, or Zoom Info or whatever the traditional data enrichment providers are. Um, but that's essentially the lay of the land, right? So we say here, you got a post that goes viral, booth attendees go crazy. Um, that's why you probably want to reach for something like this. And I'm pretty sure if you're listening and you're working at a company, your CRM is probably chocked filled with personal emails that are just like sitting there, just pipeline untouched.
I think this is a really common issue now. We've seen a lot of platforms come and go that are these enrichment platforms that are these de-anonymization tools. We've got RB2B, which is a great tool. And then there's also Koala, which was acquired by Cursor, and then sunsetted Common Room, which just recently was announced that it's going to be acquired by Zoom. So we'll see what the future of Common Room is. So I think this is a very core need right now in kind of like a MarTech space of people needing to go from a personal email, de-anonymize it, maybe not necessarily in real time. I don't think this is real time, but be able to de-anonymize it for a sales led growth strategy. So really cool to see. And I'm curious, I'm sure there's a lot of people asking the same question. How is this different from something like Clay? What do you think? Especially in your experience with Exa, what do you think the difference between those are?
Yeah, I think this one, because it's in a custom code workflow. So Clay is really good if you have a fixed data set and you just want to, let's say, waterfall it through a bunch of different data providers and make sure you get an end result. This one is, I mean, obviously that's really good. Uh, the limitations there may be primarily on cost because the way that Clay tends to bill. When we do it this way, we're essentially paying basically nothing for compute. And I'll give you some stats here. So when we ran this for a particular company that had about 20,000 leads roughly. And so the compute cost there is say $100 just to run the Vercel workflow across 20,000 leads. And then the data for that, because it's pay as you go, was $150, 250 all in to enrich all of those leads. The only other way to do that typically in the before times was buying Zoom Info or Harmonic, and that's a 5-figure enterprise, contract with annual, renewals and all that. Pretty unattainable for say the average startup or solo founder. Um, but now with these kind of pay as you go models, and it's not just AXA, there's a few others now in the marketplace. There's, I think it's Acta.pro is another example. You get super accessible data, and now you can start really kind of, going hard with whatever marketing you're doing and following up with those folks. And that's kind of what this section is right here is why even do that. I think especially for solo founders, folks maybe that are a little bit earlier in the company maturity, uh, that's kind of been the historic norm is you just had emails that you couldn't work, right? Because either your sales team was large enough to go research every single person individually, or you just didn't have all this inbound from people coming in.
Totally. Yeah. And I think this kind of solves the problem of even knowing who to go after and contact. Because I think if it's all Gmail, odds are it's probably going to be not high quality leads, because people are purposely probably signing up for their through their Gmail accounts. They don't want to necessarily signal intent. But then if you have that company email, then you can actually know, is this worth going after or not? Does this fall into a certain segment that we want to target for our sales plays, basically?
Yeah, I feel like it's really beneficial as well for companies going from a product led growth situation into a more enterprisey B2B sales situation where, a lot of these PLG companies use GitHub or Google OAuth, right? And so you are kind of left with only a personal email. And so making that jump to get, what companies are actually using my product, I think can be massive and like be a great use case for this also. I'm on to, I'd love to hear kind of maybe more the technical side of how you use Vercel to build this or what that would look, kind of setting it up more from a technical side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this kind of touches on it here, but essentially, for a brief primer, Vercel workflows is kind of a new model that Vercel has released, but essentially it is these long running durable functions. But really, what is important is each workflow, you could think of it as a container for work. And so if we have 14 million records, it really doesn't matter because they, under the hood, have unlocked this scale. We just pay for the usage as you go. But essentially, we will spawn a workflow for every contact that, let's say, is in our CRM that needs enrichment. And so each workflow has these handful of steps. And so in the code that I have down here, corresponding to that visual workflow I had, this is basically the steps that are happening for every single contact. We're first doing that people research step. Um, and so if I can be a little bit more on the technical side, the workflow can run for as long as it needs to. And then each step individually can run for 15 minutes or whatever. So we can just string together as many of these steps as we want to. And there's really no limitation. Um, so first step is we run Exa API to take that email and then do essentially a search for them. That's going to return back a list of candidates with work history. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick the first result. And if I don't have a work history for that individual, I'm just going to reject it because then it's if you type in, Bridger Tower on LinkedIn, if
Hmm.
I'm not going to see you there or there's another Bridger Tower, uh, it's probably not a good match. So I'm going to ignore it. Um, After that, I will just use some custom code to pull out the company URL. And then I will string together however many data providers I want. So that could be pulling in Exa again. That could be pulling a Harmonic. That could be Zoom Info. That could be Apollo. I just pull all that information. And the last step, just for record keeping, you throw it back into the CRM, right? So whether that's a HubSpot, Salesforce, or your own custom database or whatever, just so you have that information. So then you can do something with it later if you want to. Because you spend some money on that data, you might as well keep it to use it later at no cost. So that's essentially how it looks. And yeah, and that's because it's on Vercel, it's all kind of serverless infrastructure. Like I said, you can run millions of records at this. It's going to handle it no problem. Um, and it just scales just fine.
That's sweet. Have you, in using this in with some of these companies, do you find that people are using it kind of to run as a big batch up front? Or is there a reason you would want to have it set up to run, indefinitely, or off of the contact page or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's helpful to look at the use cases. So I guess in two ways, I have two use cases listed out here. We have intent based outbounding, and then we have lead segmenting. I think in both cases, maybe you can do it differently. So, for example, in intent based outbound, this could be something, if I see a handful of people sign up on the same account, the same company, well, now I would just see previously just random emails. But now I can see, oh, actually, these four emails are all from the same company. So that's a hot,
Yeah.
I'm really trying to use your product. We should go reach out to them. So that can be a campaign. That's a one and done type enrichment. You do a batch. Okay, we'll just look at signups in this particular time window and we'll just run that process and then, call it a day. The other option would be like doing it recurring is lead segmenting. So as people kind of come in, whether it's, you got some SEO pages, you have a contact sales page or whatever, they're just chiming in every now and then. You then take those leads and once they're inserted into the CRM, you kick off this job. that then demystifies them. So a workflow typically you could use, yeah, Cam, you mentioned RB2B. RB2B demystifies it, pulls a personal email, goes to CRM, then we kick off this workflow, and now we got their company, and now we got all this other data enrichment. And then actually, you could probably string those both together. Okay, now we can also say, hey, we're seeing multiple people from this company looking at these pages, right? Or looking at our
Yeah.
site in general. Do you guys want to have a conversation? Hey, here's some more material you can dive into, whatever. So it's super flexible. It just depends how you want to use it. And that's I think where doing it in custom code is really helpful because you get that flexibility um, based on your particular sales and marketing motion.
That's cool. I think just to reiterate, I think it's absolutely insane the cost efficiency of this. I think it's amazing what we can do in the age of AI and with tooling for sell workflows. It's just insane how you can enrich tens of thousands of leads for a few $100 to get these company emails from free mails. And you mentioned Amon, this is data you would have to pay multiple tens of thousands of dollars for from places. Zoom Info. I mean, uh, Crunchbase is another old one. All these different data providers. It's just crazy that now you can do this yourself using the underlying infrastructure. All these primitives are basically given to us, and if you can string together some code, then you can do it for practically nothing. Um, and imagine the ROI on one of those leads. If one of them converts, then you've gotten your money back easily, probably tenfold for enriching the entire, tens of thousands of leads, which is really cool. Just insane that you can do that now.
Yeah, and to that end, and that's why part of why ShipGTM exists. Here is all of the code. You can just take all of this, drop it into an LLM, Cloud Code it, Open Code, whatever, Cursor, and just say, hey, now I want you to take this core workflow and build a CSV list importing tool around it. And then now immediately you get all of these steps that we are talking about. And then you have your custom thing where you can just drop in CSVs that you're using maybe, or lead lists that you have, and then just start enriching those yourself. Um, I mean, it is really crazy because before you said there's just blocker. Only the best companies could achieve those, or if you have some funding or something. But if you're kind of working a solid 9 to 5, you can probably set $500 aside to just run data enrichment on some leads that you've gathered from free SEO experiments. It's all super accessible now, especially with all these tooling. It just makes it the barrier to entry so low.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Thanks for walking us through it. If anybody's watching this, then please feel free to hit us up on any questions you might have, and then also any recommendations. We'd love for you to try this out and then see how it goes for you. And we'd love to hear the results and any feedback. Um, I don't know if you guys have anything to add, but I think that was a great walkthrough. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.